people were furious. The plebeians essentially went on a citywide strike, threatening to just leave and found their own city. The patricians, realizing Rome couldn't function without them, finally gave in. The result was a massive step forward: the 12 tables.
Hello and welcome everyone to History Shots. You know, you look at these massive empires in history, and you have to wonder, how could they possibly just disappear? Is it always some enemy army breaking down the gates? Or, and this is the really chilling part, does the rot start from the inside? Does an empire just eat itself alive? To get a sense of the scale we're talking about here, just wrap your head around this. At its absolute peak, 1 in every 5 people on the entire planet was a Roman. They didn't just rule the world. In many ways, they were the world. So how on earth does something that big, that powerful, just fall apart? Let's get into it. To really understand how Rome died, we have to go all the way back to how it was born. And let me tell you, its birth was anything but peaceful. It was brutal.
Yeah, the founding myth of Rome, it's not some happy story of 2 brothers working together. It's the story of twins, Romulus and Remus. They get into a huge argument over where to build their new city, and the argument ends with Romulus killing his own twin brother. He literally founds the city on his brother's blood. Talk about a bad omen, right? And this act of murder, it wasn't just a story. It baked a core philosophy right into Rome's DNA. They came to believe in violence for a purpose. The idea that any action, no matter how ruthless, was justified if it helped expand and protect the state. This one idea was the engine that built their incredible empire, and, tragically, it was also the seed of its own destruction. So, after centuries of being ruled by kings, some of them absolute tyrants, the Roman people had had enough. They came to despise the very idea of a monarch, and this deep-seated hatred would actually forge a completely new way of running a country. For almost 250 years, kings ruled Rome. The breaking point finally came in 509 BCE, when the king's son committed a terrible crime against a noble woman named Lucretia. Her tragic death sparked a full-blown revolution, led by a man named Brutus. He made the people swear an oath that Rome would never again be ruled by a king. And just like that, the Roman Republic was born. But let's be clear, this new republic wasn't exactly a paradise of equality. Society was split right down the middle. You had the patricians, the wealthy, land-owning elite who held all the power. And then you had everyone else, the plebeians, the working class, the soldiers, the farmers. You know, the people who actually built Rome and fought for it, but had almost no rights to speak of. That tension was like a powder keg, and one day it just exploded. A man stumbles into the public market. He's a decorated soldier, a war hero, but he's in rags. He shows the crowd the fresh whip marks on his back, and he tells them his story. While he was away fighting for Rome, a rich patrician stole his family farm, and when he couldn't pay the debt, had him imprisoned and tortured. The people were furious. The plebeians essentially went on a citywide strike, threatening to just leave and found their own city. The patricians, realizing Rome couldn't function without them, finally gave in. The result was a massive step forward: the 12 tables. It was Rome's very first written code of law, put up in public for everyone to see. For the first time, the law was the law for everyone, not just for the rich. It was a total game changer. So, with society a bit more stable at home, Rome started to look outwards. Its next chapter would be written in the fire of conquest and the blood of its enemies. You see, Rome's greatest superpower wasn't just its brute strength, it was its ability to learn from its mistakes. In 390 BCE, tribes from Gaul just swept in and completely sacked the city. It was a crushing, humiliating defeat. But instead of breaking them, it made them smarter. They analyzed exactly what went wrong, built a massive new wall around the city, and completely reinvented their military, creating the professional, disciplined Roman legion we all know today. And this new military machine was about to face its ultimate test, the Punic Wars against the other great power, Carthage. We're talking about a conflict that spanned 118 years. Rome was pushed to the absolute brink, even facing Hannibal and his war elephants coming over the Alps. But Roman ingenuity won the day. To beat Carthage's superior navy, they invented a device called the corvus, basically a giant boarding bridge that let them turn a sea battle into a land fight on the enemy's deck. And the result? Total Roman domination of the entire Mediterranean. And this is where the story takes a tragic turn. All of Rome's success started to become a poison. The Republic was founded on a hatred of kings, remember? But all this constant warfare created something new, something even more dangerous. Generals who were more powerful than any king had ever dreamed of being. The ultimate example, of course, was Julius Caesar, a military genius, a hero to the people, but a massive threat to the Senate. When they ordered him to give up his army, he knew it was a death sentence. So he came to a small river, the Rubicon, the border of Italy. He had to make a choice, obey the Senate or start a civil war. He chose war. Well, Caesar won that war. He marched on Rome and had himself declared dictator for life. He was a king in everything but name. To a group of senators, this was the ultimate betrayal. On the Ides of March, they cornered him in the Senate, and in a shocking explosion of violence, they stabbed him to death, right there on the Senate floor. And one of the lead assassins was a man named Brutus, a man Caesar had considered a close friend, almost a son. His justification really captures the tragedy of it all. He believed he wasn't committing murder. He was saving the republic he loved, even if it meant killing the man he loved. But the assassins were tragically wrong. They hadn't saved the republic. They'd just kickstarted another 13 years of brutal civil war. And when the dust settled, one man stood victorious, Caesar's young heir, Octavian. He would take the name Augustus, and he would become Rome's very first emperor. The Republic was officially over. The change from republic to empire was a fundamental shift in Rome's values. The old ideal of shared government gave way to the absolute power of one man. Law and order were replaced by blood sport as mass entertainment, and the humble values of the early republic descended into just unbelievable decadence, with emperors throwing banquets featuring soups made from parrot tongues. And maybe no one embodied this decay more than the Emperor Commodus. He was obsessed with the idea that he was the living reincarnation of the hero Hercules. He would go into the gladiatorial arena himself and fight, and he won over 12,000 times. Of course he did. His opponents were given blunt weapons or were secretly drugged. He wasn't a ruler. He was an actor playing a hero while his empire crumbled around him.
When Commodus was finally assassinated, it really felt like the beginning of the end. The rot that had started at the very top was now consuming the entire structure of the empire.
You can see the pure chaos just in the numbers. In the first 166 years of the empire, Rome had 14 emperors. In the next 100 years, it had nearly 70. The army had completely taken over. Legions were loyal to their generals, not to Rome. And the emperor's personal guard literally started auctioning off the throne to the highest bidder. It was a century of nonstop civil war.
And that is the ultimate terrifying lesson here. The very thing that made Rome great, its unmatched military, its philosophy of violence for a purpose, that's what became its undoing. The conquerors turned their swords inward and began to conquer themselves. The empire was eating itself alive. Which brings us right back to our original question. Rome's story spanned over 2,000 years, but it leaves us with this timeless, unsettling thought. If an empire's greatest strength can curdle and become its most fatal weakness, what does that say about the great powers of our own time? What are the strengths we rely on today that could one day become the very thing that brings us down?